All right, welcome everybody. So in this video, we are going to learn about the filter function in the dplyr package. And the filter function is a function that works on the rows of a data frame. So we're going to first talk about several functions from the dplyr package that work on the rows, that act on the rows of a data frame, the filter being the first of one. So the filter function is very, very similar to the subset function that we've already seen in base R. Filter function basically works the same sort of way as the subset function but we just need the dplyr package to run the filter function. So if, for example, let's say my goal here is to um, subset the storms data frame and pick out the rows that have a hurricane force diameter, which is more than 240 nautical miles. So we've talked about how we can do this using indexing, for example, with logicals. So I can go ahead and say, I'm going to use a logical test on the rows that's going to say we want to slice out all of the rows that have a hurricane force diameter bigger than 240. So if I run this code cell, this should work for us. And you can see here, it is doing some weird stuff. It is pulling off a lot of NAs, and there are some other there are other storms down here at the bottom. So one thing that is not ideal about this way of indexing or slicing using indexing is it had trouble with the NAs, but we can account for that by using and the logical and operator and adding a second condition over here. So this second condition is saying, okay, we want storms that have a hurricane force diameter bigger than 240. And in addition, we also want to make sure that the storm's force diameter, remember when we put this exclamation point before hand, this is like the logical not. So this is saying, and we want to make sure that hurricane force diameter is not equal to NA. So this is checking two conditions. Hurricane force diameter is bigger than 240 and hurricane force diameter is not equal to NA. So we can run this code cell. And now we can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 observations in the data frame that had a hurricane force diameter bigger than 240 nautical miles. So there was extra tropical storm Maria in 2005, which was that large over a 2-day span. We can see there was Hurricane Sandy in 2012, which was over that span for a couple of hours. And then there was extra tropical storm Alex in 2016, which exceeded that size very briefly. So we can see those observations below. We can also do this using the filter function in dplyr. So how this would work in dplyr is I would first use this filter function, filter, and like all of the functions in dplyr, the very first thing we enter is the data frame, storms. Then the next thing that we typically enter would be something related to a column of the data frame. And now we enter the name of the column without quotes around the column name. And I don't put storms $ hurricane force diameter. It's already implied that we're in the storms data frame. I've already indicated that. So now I just need to type the name of the column And now I want to know what observations. I want to keep the rows that have hurricane force diameter bigger than 240. So I'm going to run this code cell and I get the same exact output as we got above. This filter command knew to ignore any observations that had a hurricane force diameter with a missing value. So I didn't have to worry about missing values with the filter command, which is super nice. So that's how the filter command works. It's data frame, then enter a condition. And we can use ands and ors and other things. So we can compose, we can, have multiple logical conditions inside of this filter if we wanted to. Question 3 is saying, let's modify this code up above to enter this filter statement using the pipe. So I'm going to just copy this code cell over here, paste it down below. And if I was using piping, then the first thing I would do is say, I'm going to take the storms data frame and I'm going to input that into, so it's just saying what's the first thing that's going into the filter function, and it's storms. So rather than input storms into the filter function, I'm going to indicate that storms is the first thing which is going into the filter function. So that's how I would enter that using the pipe. So this is saying take storms, input that into filter, and this is equivalent to saying filter storms like that. So if I run this, I should get exactly the same output as this. So the command above, filter storms hurricane force diameter bigger than 240, is exactly equivalent to the command using the pipe below, storms pipe filter hurricane force diameter bigger than 240. Okay, so that is the filter command. You can really just think about the filter function just like the subset function in base R. Really does the same sort of thing. There are other options that you can use with the filter function. So I'll just run it over here. You can select certain variables. If you don't want to pull off every single column, you can choose to pull off just certain columns from it and so on. So it has examples, and oftentimes the examples that it uses are from the data frames from the dplyr package. So this is using the Star Wars data frame as its illustrative examples. And I just want to point out that the help documentation is using the pipe operator, the older pipe operator with the percent sign around the greater than symbol. But again, I would recommend that you use the more universal pipe operator that I've been using, since that will work in base R and in tidyverse. Okay, so that's a wrap on the filter command. The filter function will in the next video, take a look at slice. Thanks, everyone.